Hello students, welcome to the EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Rashmi Sharma, Head of the Department OB and HR, Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management, Delhi. Today we will learn the module HR in Startups. This module is from the paper Contemporary Issues in HRM and Future Trends. The learning outcomes from this module are: we will be introducing the concept of HR in a startup, what are the recent researches that have been done in this area, what are the strategies for success, implementation of legal employment practices, and some live corporate examples. After completing this module, the students will be able to learn about startups, learn the HR strategies for effective growth and employee retention in startup, understand the implementation of legal employment practices. In a startup, HR is the most vital aspect in order to attain the short as well as the long-term objectives of the firm. However, it is also one of the most misunderstood aspects of business, particularly in a startup. The employees are of the view that HR department is not necessary in such a small venture. But if a CEO is asked to prioritize the critical challenges that are required to run a startup, then the HR enters the list. The study of managing talent in startups generally revolves around the millennial generation, as majority of employees working in a startup are millennials. Thus, balancing the intrinsic as well as the extrinsic factors of motivation is somehow coherent and significantly different from the Generation X and the baby boomers. The domains of HR are more or less the same, namely recruitment, selection, learning, development, performance appraisal, grievance redressal, compensation and benefits, though a greater emphasis is given on acquiring the best talent and retaining them for a longer period in this uncertain marketplace. Based on Herzberg's theory, in case of startups, the millennials can be attracted towards the startups through different hygiene and motivational factors. Hygiene factors would include the physical working condition, which must be updated and well maintained, greater level of job security and better quality of life, along with different employee health programs. Motivational factors would include recognition for individual efforts, autonomy in decision making, use of niche skills, etc. It has been researched that for most of the startup failures, the main reason has been the mismanagement of the resources that were available. Hence, what is more required by the startups is not to hire the employees matching the mindset and philosophy of the founder or the CEO, but of the customers, as in the case they are better able to serve the customers. According to a study that was conducted by the Society of HRM, there were few challenges that the managers face in the initial 10 years of the startups that have been identified. The study stated almost 59% feel that retaining and rewarding the top employees is a major issue. 52% think that developing the next generation of leaders is a tough challenge, and 36% feel that creating a work-friendly culture attracts the best and the most talented employees. An HR consulting group has proposed a 7-step process to develop an HR strategy. The steps are as follows. First, exploration of business objectives and key factors affecting the firm. Second, developing a mission statement. Third, conducting a SWOT analysis of the firm. Fourth, conducting a COPS analysis of the firm. Fifth, determining the critical people's issue. Sixth, development of HR action plan. Seventh, evaluation of the HR action plan and the implementation. A clearly defined HR manual in sync with the organizational vision and mission can also improve the efficiency of channel of communication amongst the managers, supervisors and their associates. There have been several contemporary researches done in the area of implementing human resource management practices in startups. In a paper by Hornsby, Kuratko and Donald F. HRM in small business, it has been asserted that the importance of HR department is not dependent upon the size of the firm or its life stage. In order to propel the growth in future, even a small firm also requires a competent HR department. In a paper by Lucas on human capital and regional development, it has been ascertained that better quality of human resource, even with limited availability of other resources, allows the firm to significantly lower the cost and gain the economies of scale even when at an initial stage of production. A research was conducted by TCS to gain insights about the perceptions that millennials hold towards startups using a survey to identify the factors that attracted candidates towards startups and those that prevented people from taking up such ventures. Another research has shown that it's not only the compensation aspect which attracts the millennials in a startup. The factors that actually encourage them are the opportunity to gain insights into the business. The working class look onto the chance to exhibit their niche skills. The generation seeks more recognitions for their individual efforts. Also, the millennials expect to have a greater autonomy in decision making and complementing the autonomy with greater responsibility in a completely acceptable manner. The main factors that discourage the millennials from working in a startup are that they are competitively lower level of job security and quality of life, compensation being the secondary preference. Further, branding of the organization that appeals to the working preferences of the millennials can attract the high potential talent pool in a startup. Let's understand what are the strategies to bring about success. First and foremost, every startup should have a company handbook, which should be a must and should include all the policies in place and provide a reliable source of clarification to the employees of what their responsibilities are and what are the benefits that are attached to it. It can also help to resolve the grievances or any other issues which might pop up in the future. Put one in place and keep on making modifications later on. It may seem like a boring booklet at first, but eventually can prove to be of a great use and importance in future. Transparent and inspirational leadership is a must-have in any startup. The startup founders are expected to deliver the genuine information and maintain transparency in the working of their business. They require being honest to goodness. This transparency propels the mutual understanding amongst employees and also reduces office politics. The senior executives should share confidential information, but they need to identify the amount as well as the timing to do so. Before doing so, he or she should judge the employee's work ethics and his or her potential to do the work that has been given. an efficient founder would have a proficient knowledge and thus would share the right knowledge. When the founder passes authentic knowledge with his employees, then only employees can ask any queries that are related to the company and freely express their opinions regarding any issues. Individual owners and founders are creative, inventive and innovative. They make their own fruitful decisions and being productive results in their organizations. It is important for a founder to maintain a healthy relationship with the employees and provide them with adequate resources as well as information for the code of conduct for their respective jobs. That would also help in making a career path for their employees by offering them better learning and development opportunities. Setting the cultural dimensions for the company is another aspect that is to be focused upon. Startups are known to be innovative, tech savvy and open-ended environment. Since they are not attached to a larger corporation, it is much easier to modify the culture easily and quickly. There is a great scope of turning around the culture and climate of the organization. While hiring, ensure that the philosophy of the employee matches the philosophy of the organization. And of course, the target customers as well as the founders should be satisfied as well with the company's culture and philosophy. Startup companies like Price Baba are nowadays using social platforms for hiring. As such, the prospective employees are vetted much more before they join the organization. The HR philosophy can thus be fun, approachable and in lines with the organization's overall goals and objectives. It is important to devise an HR strategy that is based on the culture as it reflects the vision of the organization. Thus, values, vision and mission, all the three are required to be in the place as it enhances the clarity for what the organization really wants to do and what are the values that it carries to pursue in fulfilling those objectives. For most of the startups, its founding members keep the accessible approach with a flat structure, thus getting them involved in all the key activities of the firm, which is why a greater emphasis has been laid on a manpower planning, that is to get quality workforce with multitasking skills. For this purpose, competency mapping can be used, which can re-emphasize the importance of niche skills amongst the millennials. It helps to save costs as well. It is after the effective recruitment and selection, employee retention, performance management that training comes into play. Let us now understand how we can design an effective training and development program which would benefit a startup. As an entrepreneur, the primary goal is to ensure retention of the talent that is acquired by designing an effective learning and development opportunities, be it mentoring or in the basket training or e-learning, modeling, etc. This works in favor of the entrepreneur as it offers a career path to the employees. Also, it inculcates a sense of loyalty and commitment in the minds of the people, particularly it enhances the satisfaction level of the employees. This is the reason why the company offers orientation programs to its new employees. The startups as such have a flat structure and therefore they have introduced mentoring programs wherein an entry level employee is paired with a senior mid-level employee for a defined period of time. It helps the entry level employee to gain new skills and become better informed about the goals and missions of the firm. It helps the senior employee to explore his or her leadership skills and better understand the market trends by getting a fresh opinion. It is a kind of a win-win situation. Construct a fair and equitable compensation strategy to be effective in an HR. Since most of the productive hours are spent in the job, employees expect a fair and just compensation levels. People become much more interested to work if they are given some kind of job security and quality of life. It is important to do some kind of research about the latest compensation plans that are prevailing, as employees nowadays expect more of fringe benefits as well, along with the basic pay. Otherwise, as such, one observes that the tangible benefits of working in a startup are much more lesser than those compared to working in a large organization. One may most likely be less acceptable to take such a job. A startup must decide on benefits to retain the right people. In order to entice a quality candidate to the venture, one may sweeten the pot by adding unique benefits to the basket, which other big competitors might not be offering. For this, a medical benefit package tops the list, but this will not suffice the candidate's requirements. The entrepreneurs are required to brainstorm some aspect so as to offer transactional and relational returns to their employees in order to retain them. They require thinking out of the box and seeing what other companies are offering in order to retain the employees. This may include a theme-based office, allowing pets at office, flexi working hours, EWPs, etc. But this is to be aligned with the setting clear-cut performance expectation in a job description. Managing HR in a startup company need not be overwhelming and complicated. The rewards and appraisals need to be in place when it comes to having a right HR policy in a startup. When it comes to performance appraisals and rewards for managers, things are taken into account which are usually their key performance indicators, KPI in short, targets, growth, etc. Many high performing employees are given monetary incentives, but this is not enough. Monetary incentives does not help to retain employees for long. It is the non-monetary incentive which allows the retention of employee for a longer period of time in an organization. It is also about offering the right kind of rewards. In a startup, the employees should be given incentives to find and nurture the high potential which can be the future leaders for the organization. This also enhances the employee satisfaction and improves their morale, thereby increasing productivity, sense of commitment, loyalty, and reducing employee turnover. All this is required to be aligned with the current financial situations of the company and its mission, vision, and goals. Corral the paperwork. It is an advantage for the startup company that everything begins fresh and a prior solution can be worked upon even before the bundles of paperwork are piled up. Setting up the personnel files through a cabinet or through paperless digital system, putting in place various policies and other documents is imperative. So, in this technological era, startups enjoy the privilege of forming documentation in the cloud instead of piling sheets and then managing them, which can take a substantial productive time of the employees. What is more important is to choose a secure method of storage. Implementation of legal employment practices is what we are going to understand now. It is critical for small business owners to ensure that their practices are in line with the legal employment rules and regulations. All entrepreneurs must understand that the common employment laws are in order to reduce the chances of violating them and bearing the consequences later on. The best way to implement it is to hire a legal specialist or a seasoned HR professional who would draft an employee handbook. First is to explore the business objective and key factors that affects the firm. The first step in devising this HR policy helps to state the objectives that are the factors that are likely to affect the performance of the firm in the external business environment. This stage also involves the exploration of other aspects like technology, changing trends, substitute available, bargaining power of the buyers, etc. And of course, their impact on the employees in the startup. The second aspect, development of a mission statement. The second step is to develop the mission statement along with the values and vision for the startup. It gives the intimation for what the company plans to do and how does it plan to do so in order to achieve its goals and objectives efficiently and effectively. The third step is conducting a SWOT analysis of the firm. The third step involves the process of conducting a SWOT analysis, particularly in context of the employees. This consists of extensive analysis on strengths and weaknesses of the available pool of employees in the light of the existing opportunities and the threats that exist in the marketplace. Fourth step is to conduct the COPS analysis of the firm. The COPS stands for Culture, Organization, People and Systems. This is done by initiating surveys in the organization through the internal HR audit process. The purpose of this is to gain the insights about the understanding of employees for the organization and their level of commitment to it. It also probes the grievance redressal criteria which can be successfully launched in the firm. This will be followed by an analysis of the recruitment and selection process, performance management and HRIS for the company. Step 5 is determining the critical people issues. This step involves in determining what are the core people issues. It identifies the weaknesses and other loopholes in planning, sourcing, recruiting, learning, compensation and benefits against the competitors. This process is followed by prioritizing the problems and working upon it by developing plans for the same. The sixth step is the development of HR action plan. After we are done with the SWOT and the COPS analysis, we will identify the critical people issues. The next step is to devise an action plan to work upon it and identify the possible solutions and the consequences. All the possible alternatives are first identified against the existing market conditions and the most viable and profitable alternative is selected. After all, it is the profit that matters towards the end. Step 7. Evaluating the action plan and its implementation. This step involves the plan in action, that is, the implementation of the solution followed by the evaluation and the control mechanism. This approach can be used to implement the systems in a flat structure of a startup and well suited to the culture and the environment it plans to create. For example, a loophole of grievance redressal can be resolved by putting a whistle-blowing policy in place. A startup does not require a corporate HR and production or retail HR differently. They can be worked all together and can be further bifurcated as the complexities arise. Thus, HR practices and strategies are to be carefully aligned to the vision and mission of the startup, and also the legal implications should be worked upon. And HR not only helps the organization to achieve its objective for a sustainable period of time, but would also provide a viable reaction in the worst case scenario in business to revive and stay competitive in the market. Thus, HR defines the organization in its good as well as the bad times. Smart the talent acquired, tougher it is to retain it. And then the ones who succeed to do so are the winners. But if the startup fails to attract as well as retain the talent, it would eventually fail to achieve its business strategy due to lack of investment in human capital. Naval Ravikant of Venture Hack has very truly mentioned in one of his recent interviews that hiring for a startup is harder than raising money. Startups are promoted as a brand. Employees working in MNCs might not meet the top executives or directors, but in startups, the employees can see the scope of themselves becoming the CEO or the COO or the CFO or the CHRO. Every MNC was once a startup. These are the few measures, if implemented by time, can allow continuity in growth perspective of the startup, thus leading to the success of the company and minimize the risk of sinking in present dynamic era where market conditions are changing every moment. Thank you.